Okay, so we are back. LyfStory Podcast is back for this season number 3. It's going to be very different from what we've done in the last 2 seasons. We're not going to be doing the traditional just family stories. It's going to be a mix of the other things that we have going on, both here at home and in the lives of other people that we know and care about. So I think this 2023 is going to be a year where we're going to be trying a lot of different things. But one of the things that I want to do this year and to accomplish in 2023 is to work with my sister, Gwenlisa, and she's been on the podcast before. But I want us to work on just whatever we want to. We're gonna start off today probably just talking about whatever comes up, and then from today we're gonna zero in on a few subjects, a few topics that we want to just kind of take a deep dive into and discuss those. One of the things that this LyfStory podcast has been associated with is just the story of albinism. And that makes sense because Gwen and I, we both have albinism. We're people living with albinism. We're part of a family that has a lot of people with albinism and communities both at home in Zimbabwe and abroad. So that's a subject that we're going to be talking about quite a lot. But not just the fact that we're people who are born with albinism and are living with albinism, but we are also just people living life. We have families, we have friends, we have things that we care about, maybe projects. Maybe there are things about government that we want to talk about because we do care about, politics. How, for us as people with albinism, what opportunities look like, where they exist, where they don't exist. So this is just this series. This is the first episode, and we'll just go from here and see where it leads. I don't know, Teta Gwen, what do you think? Well, I mean, from what I just said.
Well, I think it's a good start for the 3rd season, where we're not specifically looking at albinism, but we're also looking at matters, that involve us, that concern us as human beings. Yes, we have albinism, but, we come from societies, we come from communities where there are different issues, where there are different matters, things happening around us every day. And we cannot turn a blind eye on such matters and just, keep focusing on albinism. Yes, albinism is going to be, our main issue. Like you've said, we have albinism, both you and me. But we should involve in issues, or in matters that, in things that happen around us, within our societies and within our communities, within our countries where we live in, be it in the United States or be it in Zimbabwe. There are a number of issues that are going on. There are a number of, like I'm saying, things that are happening. And we should give our voice in such issues. Our voices should be, heard in such issues. That's my thinking.
So I don't know, when you were having your babies, did it ever occur to you that maybe your children would just grow up with you and it would be normal to them to be raised by a mother with albinism?
Well, it was an issue of concern to me. But like you are saying, as the mother, it grew naturally for them to accept me, and they don't see me like the world sees me. They know they know I have albinism, and they are confident about it. But this topic, it brings me back. This week I had a radio interview on this same topic. So it was on parents with disabilities raising children without disabilities. So for me, what worked for me was, with my kids, when they go to a certain age where they go to know stuff, they go to understand, or when they started going to school. That's about the same time I started a Life Albinism initiative. And what I would do is, when we were having events, activities for persons with albinism, I took my kids with me. I wanted them to know that I was not the only one with albinism. I wanted them to see that there are other people with this condition, there are other people with albinism, and they can also relate with them. So I think that helped. And I always tell people that I go to raise advocates, be it on albinism, be it on human rights, or, when they see someone being bullied at school, they tend to stand up for other children, because I gave them that, that platform where they saw my mommy being an advocate, standing out for rights of persons with albinism, challenging the system. And I think I remember someone telling me, an old friend of mine, she has albinism. She was like, when you know what, you need to be careful. I think she was having problems with her son or her kids. And she was like, when kids get to their, when they're in their teenage years, they tend to get reserved when they've a parent with albinism or a parent with a disability. They don't want to be seen, hanging around the person. They don't want their friends know that their mom is albinism. So you just have to be careful. I think she gave me a warning at an early stage. So I knew if I don't take care of it when they were still young, it was going to be a problem for me.
Okay, so she was trying to help you to make them aware while they're young, so as they get older, they don't treat you differently.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. I thought she was trying to tell you the other way around, like, be careful because
she was trying to
reject you anyway. Okay.
I think she faced rejection at some point, and she was trying to tell me to, she was just trying to give me a warning that if you're not careful, if you don't show them the right way, you will be having problems.
So this. Go ahead.
So yeah, that's how I took it, because I've also seen it that if you are, differently abled, or a parent who who is unique, if you do not teach your children the right way, if you don't tell them, maybe starts with you as a person with albinism or with a disability. If you're not confident of your condition, it will affect maybe the rest of your family members, the people you interact with, the people you meet. They'll have a different view of who you are. So I think it needs the parent to be confident, to be self-aware of their condition, so that they know how to educate, deal with, and with their children with matters regarding their condition.
So
so
said,
that was my take on it.
I mean, I like that this woman was looking out for you, though, and that's like I said, I don't want to just make it about albinism, but she was a person with albinism. Was she raising children with albinism also, or was she just raising children who were like dark pigmented?
No, they are dark pigmented.
Do you know of any people with albinism who are also raising children with albinism?
I know of a number of them.
Really?
I do. So
is it because they married someone else with albinism, or it just so happens that they have albinism and then they married someone who was like had the recessive gene, and then they ended up having kids with albinism too?
So it's both. I know some people with albinism who are married to each other, and some who have partners who are dark pigmented and they have children with albinism. A guy with albinism, the wife does not have albinism. The wife has albinism. The husband does not have albinism, but they have children with albinism.
how common is it now for these relationships where people with albinism are married to each other?
It's not so common. It's not so common, but there are a number of cases.
And are we talking about Zimbabwe, or are we talking about just other?
We're talking about Zimbabwe.
Okay.
I know of a couple in Zimbabwe. I think they have about 5 children with albinism. They both have albinism.
And the parents have albinism.
Wow. The parents have albinism. I know of a couple in Mutare. The last time I knew, they had one baby with albinism. Both the mother and the father had albinism.
I wonder if it's. I don't think it's possible scientifically, but I would be very surprised if 2 people with albinism get married and they end up with a child who doesn't have albinism. That would just break all the laws of science.
That would be very.
Yeah. I know. These are their lives, so we don't want to expose people, but it'll be interesting to see what that looks like for the generations that come up, those children. What would their lives be? Because growing up, you and I have talked about it. Having albinism was supposed to be a disadvantage, was supposed to be a weakness. When we were playing sports with the other kids, if we were bleeding let's say you just get a scratch like all the other kids do. But if you have albinism and you get a cut or a scratch, everybody looks at you like you're going to bleed to death. No, I'm not going to bleed. I'm not going to bleed to death just because, I got a skin tear. But that's one of the things that, we always talk about stigma and stuff, but that's one of the things that when we were growing up, we had to just kind of prepare ourselves for. But you were talking about you went to a disability, you did a radio show. And so tell me more about this. It sounds like you're working with other people now in from different communities. So what was going on with this radio show?
Okay, so basically, the radio show, I had 2, interviews on the same day. The first one was on raising children without disabilities as a parent with a disability. So it was just like they wanted to know how it is. The challenges we face and how is it, and I was telling them, children will not stop growing because their mother has a disability or their father has a disability. They will not stop acting like teenagers. They will not doing the things that are done by most children just because I have albinism or I have a disability.
But also
so
think about it like this. You and I, when we were in our teenage years, we also acted like teenagers. So if a person with a disability, and I'm going to come back to this later, but I'm going to say right now that I've always had a hard time thinking of albinism as a disability, but that's a subject we need to talk about later. I think it's important that at some point you need to talk about why people with albinism, not just in Zimbabwe, not just you, but I know across the globe, people with albinism want albinism to be considered as a disability, because when people make laws, when governments make laws, when international organizations like the United Nations, when they make their policies, it makes sense to have albinism classified as a disadvantage, as a disability, because that's how you get the benefits. That's just how things work. So I'm not gonna go ahead. I'm not gonna talk about that today, but I wanted to bring up the fact that if a person who has a disability can just act like a teenager, then of course, if you have children as a person who has a disability, you should not expect your teenage children to not act like teenagers, because that's just what humans do.
So I think looking at that is, how people with disabilities are marginalized. And we're looking at Africa where, most people with disabilities live under the poverty line. And we have, as persons with disabilities, we have a lot of struggles we go through. Poverty, less of acceptance, negative attitudes, and trying to raise a family in all that, that mix. So you might tend to overlook, that you need to be a mother, you need to be raising your kids, you need to be a father, you need to be raising your kids, and focusing on the things that maybe on matters that helps you to put food on the table. Maybe you have your own issues as a person with a disability. Maybe, with the way people treat you, maybe you have your own reservations, you're not confident enough, you are not open to new ideas, you're not open to new friendships, new relations, you just want to keep by yourself. And that is a reflection on the way you raise your kids.
Okay.
So that's another way to look at it. When we talk of persons with disabilities being parents, it's, again, it's all that we face in trying to be parents, trying to raise our kids.
So is this a new way of talking about these subjects? Because I don't remember, because you and I were not raised by parents with disabilities. So I don't remember our parents having to treat us any differently, or they themselves suffering in any unusual way, because they didn't have the disability to be a factor for them. So if you are a person such as yourself and I, or maybe most right now you, who is part of the conversation, and you're now surrounded by people who also have other disabilities apart from albinism, and they're talking about raising children, and it sounds to me like they're talking about maybe some types of anxieties, and nowadays there's a lot of mental health in the discussion, right? People are talking about mental health a lot more. So is this just a product of the times that we're living in, that people have a way of talking about it? Or is this something that if you talk to someone from our parents' generation who also had children with albinism, would they say the same things that you're saying today? If you were to go back 40 years and talk to our mother, do you think she would be saying, or not, our mother did not have a disability, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like if you met a parent who had a disability and they had a child, do you think that parent with a disability would say the things that the people on this panel that you might have been on are saying now?
I think they would. You know what happens when you are not involved directly in a situation, you would never know what happens within that situation. Or if you're not directly involved within, a family, a content party, you never know what they go through. We talk much about albinism because that's what we have, and we grew, our families were affected with albinism, so we know much. We've heard so many stories of albinism, we can relate to them, and this is the same with parents who have disabilities and raising children. So the thing, like I was saying, there's a lot of social stigma. If you are not careful, you will find stigma in your own house as a parent with a disability, raising children with a disability. Because remember, with children who have friends who belong to a society, who belong to a community, and let's say maybe each time they go out to play with the other kids, they are reminded that your mom has a disability, your mom cannot walk, your mom cannot take care of you like any other mom. So if that so happens, we have a chance that the child will begin to believe those lies. So see the mother is useless, just, what is being said by the society. The child will begin to see the mother as, not being helpful, not being able to perform certain duties which, are performed with mothers. Maybe some persons with disabilities, maybe they cannot take care of their children, they cannot bathe their children, they cannot feed their children, depending on the nature and severity of their disability. So those are some of the things we were talking on that panel. It's how the society, it's how the society puts ideas or how it affects that child being raised by a parent with a disability,
So,
which might have an effect on the relationship between the parent and their children.
so you're saying it's how society then affects the way the child looks at the parent. But you're also saying at the same time that becomes an input into how that parent looks at themselves because
exactly.
Okay. All right. So
So it's just a complicated issue, but you were saying?
No, it's okay. Is there anything that is going to come out of these panels? Like, are these things leading to someone saying we need to do something for these parents? Or where does this discussion go after the radio discussion is over?
Well, we usually, when we meet as ladies with disabilities, it's some of the things we talk about. So on this particular day, I was just trying, to make the mothers realize that they have a role to play in raising their children, whether they have a disability or not. Okay. No one will come and raise their children. I was just trying to motivate them, to give them tips and ideas on how they can raise their children in a rightful way. Okay. That they don't let their disability, hinder them from being parents. Because once your kids are old enough, and they grow, they're not going to look back and say, well, our mother was had a disability and she was never there for us. They want you as a parent to be there for them. Whether you have a disability or not, you should play your role as a parent. You should know when to put your feet down. You should know when to say yes. You should be allowed to say yes. You should be allowed to say no. Your children should not, use your disability, take advantage of you because you have a disability. So that is also what came out of the discussion, just trying to motivate mothers, to know that they have the right to say no. They have the right to put their feet down. They have the right to choose a way in which they want to raise their children.
Yeah. Yeah, they still have the 100% right to be a parent to their child that they brought into this world. No, I really like that because to me, when I think about maybe if you give up that right as someone who ended up being a parent, if you give up that right, yes, you're gonna give that child an excuse later on in life to say you were never there for me. So yeah. If you're going to be a parent, then be a parent. And your point, if you need to put your foot down, put your foot down. I really like that. I think as someone who has been living in a little bit of a shell these past, 20-something years, it's good for me to have these kind of conversations because the way I raise I raise my family here is very different from the way that you are having to do it in Zimbabwe. There are additional challenges that you just have to deal with that have nothing to do with albinism. They just, like the economy in Zimbabwe has been rough and they're just some challenges.
It has been.
Yeah. And again, not to put your whole life story out there, but as a single parent, it's challenging as well, and then you still want to be the best mom that you can be, but some things, whether you have albinism or a disability or not, some things are just not available, not just to you, but to a lot of people. So you want to raise your kids, you want to send them to school, you want them to do well, and some of those options are just difficult.
They are quite difficult. When we meet, it's not only that, our rights are infringed as persons with disabilities, but that also plays a part. It plays a part in how we live. It plays a part in how we survive, how we take care of our families. We talk of, social rights, employment rights, rights to education, all those things play a part. But like I'm saying, we are not given our rights on a silver platter as persons with disabilities here in Zimbabwe. So that tend to affect us socially, economically, and also health-wise. That tends to affect us as persons with disabilities. When we meet as within our focus groups, when we're having meetings, we find that we face the same set of challenges as persons with disabilities because of the way our system is designed. That's why, we're going to touch that, like we said on some other day, when you're saying is albinism is a disability. But we look at the UNCRPD, we're going to touch that. We can have a look at that later, and we're going to come back to it. As the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So you find their definition. I will let you go through that and see their definition of what disability is, and then we're going to come back to that on another episode. But as our society, the way it's designed, it just takes everything away for people with disabilities, and we have to fight for our rights.
So tell me about
we have to fight for.
So tell me, because I'm curious when we say that, when we're talking about not just rights enshrined in the Constitution, but what is it that people with disabilities have tried to do in Zimbabwe, and the door just gets slammed in your face because of the disability? And when you look to the people in power and you say, please remove this roadblock, they just won't do it. What is a good example of something that if the government made it easy or removed some of the roadblocks, that you would be able to do right away? What are some of those things?
Let's start with simple things like education.
Okay.
We say every child is a right to education. It doesn't say, a child without a disability, a child without albinism, a child, who is able-bodied, or a child with it just says every child is a right to, that's an international law, is a right to education.
Okay.
But when it comes to us, we right now we're speaking of inclusive education, where each child should be able to access education within their locality.
Okay.
We grew up going to Rushingo there, which was a government school, which was close enough by our house. But for a child with a disability to access such schools, it's quite difficult. Because those schools, they've known.
That's my question. Are you saying that those schools don't exist anymore? Because you and I went to school. We walked.
They do exist.
We walked to school with our brothers and sisters. We walked to school with our little lunch boxes and briefcases at the side of briefcase. and we got to school. We stood in line with all the other kids. We sang the national anthem. We did the Lord's Prayer. And then we walked in a single file to our classrooms. We sat in the little chairs behind the little desk. And for me, I don't know about you, I always sat in front because my teachers knew my mother would come and talk to them if I didn't sit in front where I could see the board.
That way to us.
So what has changed since the days that you and I went to school?
Like you just said, your mom would come and talk to the teachers, tell our teachers about our condition. But I don't know for you, but for me, when you go to grade 3, grade 4, my eyesight got worse. I would stand up from my chair and go and take a closer look from the board and come back, sit down and write what was on the board.
Okay.
If the sun was shining so bright, I could not see clearly on the board. So that my eyesight got worse by the time I was done with my primary education. By the time I got to my secondary education, I had, once I got a friend, it was someone who was there to help me. Maybe take down a few notes, take down maybe even if it was a test, a class test, they would write maybe question 1 to 10 for me to answer. And I developed friendship from there. But my eyesight gave me a lot of challenges. I don't know about you. But for me, even if I had spectacles I still needed to stand up, walk up to the board, and come back, sit down, then write what was on the board.
Mm-hmm.
That was my way of coping.
So I think
But
my eyesight was better than yours.
Mhm.
Yeah, my eyesight was way better than yours. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So remember, we were sharing textbooks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
With little font, with small print.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know by then that it was our right to have maybe a large textbooks with large print.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my teachers could have helped, writing down their notes and giving me beforehand before they start, teaching the next class.
Mm-hmm.
But now this is only albinism we are talking about.
Yeah.
We have children with cerebral palsy, we have children with physical disabilities, we have children who are totally blind, children, with all various types of disabilities, with different, severity.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking at that, where there is Roshingo, which is our former primary school,
Mm-hmm.
and they do not have systems in place which can accommodate children with disabilities. So we are talking of what hindrances that are there for persons with disabilities, which the government should look at, or they should put in place systems for persons with disabilities. And we are talking about education, right?
Yeah.
So this is what's there. When you go to Reshingo with your child who is in a wheelchair, who is not mobile, it's one, for starters. The school does not have specialist teachers who know how to take care of children with disabilities.
Okay.
The school environment is not conducive enough to accommodate children with disabilities. There are no assistive devices, or there are no technologies that can help this child to learn just like any other normal child. So this is, for starters, one challenge. Without education, without acquiring proper education, it means the future of that child is already doomed. So this is the thing that, we always talk about, like our government should be providing resources. This is due to lack of resources. As a school, as Roshingo, what can they do if they do not have resources?
So
maybe to make sure that they have ramps, they've, the environment which is suitable for these children. So it involves a number of players, but that's one of the things that I look at and say, if we start with education, then it means we are setting these children for a better future.
So my question to you, Gwen, is: Have you talked to anyone in government about this simple thing? Like, okay, not just for children with albinism. Okay, for children with albinism, if you talk to someone and say, we need books with large font that a child with albinism can hold and be able to read, because the font is large enough. We need books so they don't have to share with a neighbor, because it's hard enough to read the book when you're holding it, but when you're trying to share it with someone, you cannot see what's on the page that's farther away from you. Or has anyone, not just you, has anyone had the conversation with someone in government to say, we need to do something for our children with disabilities, maybe in wheelchairs? We need a wheelchair ramp so they can go up the whatever to the classrooms. So I'm just asking you, because if it's a government issue that it needs to be solved by someone in the government, what is the roadblock? Are those discussions actually happening? Have they happened to your knowledge?
Actually, I'm part of a coalition which is, comprises a group of other organizations for persons with disabilities, where we are focusing on the challenges faced by children with albinism within the education system. So I think even we've been having this conversation for about 3 years now, 4 years. I'm part of this coalition for like 4 years, but we try to engage our lawmakers, we try to engage our policymakers. We haven't really, we cannot talk of, we haven't been successful anyway, but we are just trying in our little small ways. So what we do is sometimes we have meetings with parents, so that's like you said a while ago that our mother knew where to go. She knew that she was supposed to talk to teachers. So sometimes we try to empower parents of children with disabilities in such a way that, it's your right to go to the school and talk to the teacher, talk to the principal, so that they understand the nature of your child's condition. So those are the things we're also trying to do. We're engaging schools or trying to educate, the headmasters, the teachers on how they can take care of children with various needs, children with special needs. And yes, we've been engaging the government, but so far we've not been quite successful in that angle.
So maybe I'm going to get in trouble with people who are going to be like, you guys in the diaspora, you don't know what you're talking about. Diaspora. But even if, okay, has anyone asked the government in Zimbabwe to put aside some money in the budget, in the education budget, that says this $10,000, let's just start with a small amount. $100,000 or $50,000, we're going to allocate this money so you and your committee can take this money and go to a few schools and say, we're going to start a program and we're going to provide ramps. We're going to provide the materials. If the school will provide the workers to build a ramp for the schools, you buy the cement, you buy the bricks, and they build a ramp. That's the parents with the children, right? Can volunteer their time because the government has given part of the money, and then everybody comes together and say, if the government gives us the money for the bricks, for the cement, for the gravel, for the sand, soil, to build a ramp, can some of the parents show up on a Saturday and build a ramp? Because maybe the government is thinking about, we can't do this, because if the government has to pay for the ramps, then they have to pay the workers too. But what if the strategy was like, okay, how can we share the responsibility with the government? If you provide the money for the resources, we provide the labor. Maybe something for the books. I don't know what it would take. It would take to take the currently existing books and have them printed using larger fonts, right? Like what's needed there. Maybe someone doesn't want to sit down and redo all the formatting on all the pages. But you could find maybe a college student who wants to do, I don't know, graphics and designing and publishing. And the government will say, well, we will provide money for the resources. Maybe you need a large printer because you're going to need to print these things. Maybe you need a computer. But instead of waiting for the book publisher, I don't know where the books are coming from, to come up and give you the copies that you need for the children with albinism, you could say, hey, if you give us money to get a printer, a large printer, to get a computer, we can work it with the publisher to where either they provide the resource or we go to the universities and hire students to come and do some layout for us. Or one of your people in your organization, imagine this. You already have an organization that's successful, that's already doing a lot of good work. And one of the people that's already in your organization can volunteer their time. Maybe they could actually learn a new skill, how to do book publishing or something like that. Maybe I'm just thinking, for me, like I said, people are going to kill me because I'm a guy who's speaking and is not in the situation. But we may need to show our government that we are capable, not just of asking for the things that we want, but we are also capable of doing the work. So if the strategy could be adjusted just a little bit, and we go to the government and say we have 5 needs, but here is what we are willing to do if you give us the funding. I'm sure the government might. Okay, I'm saying I'm sure. I don't know. My hope is with a strategy like that, maybe the government can give you $20,000 for this, $10,000 for this, and before you know it, within 1 year you've accomplished 5 things. And then you go back next year and say, hey, our budget for last year, we did 1, 2, 3, 4 things. We would like to do something larger because now people are noticing what we're doing. We got more volunteers. You see what I'm saying?
I do, but here it's not as simple as that in Zimbabwe. There's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of protocols, a lot of processes, and also we lack clear-cut policies on disability issues. So most of our issues are just overlooked. Because we do not have clear policies on albinism. But that could happen if we get, resources, if we get well-wishers, international organization to assist us. That will be, a simple way of getting things done.
I know, once you go to international organizations, you're still not solving the policy issue. So I don't know how this policy issue can be solved. I think the policy issue, for now, until the policy changes, you may need to just get a workaround,
And that's what we've been trying. That's what we've been trying to do. Before we've clear policies, which looks out for people with disabilities, we're just trying to have things done, do things in our own little ways, in our own simple little ways, just to get things done. But remember, back in the days, we used to have maybe in Gokwe, there's some rural parts where parents would, contribute towards the building of a classroom. Maybe it was a, community school and they do not have a classroom. It was parents, like you were saying, who would contribute to such things. Maybe they will contribute and they will have the bricks done by the local members. They will come and help in the building of the school themselves as parents. But when we talk of disabilities, we are not equipped enough to do that. We do not have the financial resources, given, that with different disabilities, we cannot really come up and say, this is the little money we've put aside. We're going to make sure that, we've got textbooks, we've got ramps, we cannot do that as persons with disabilities. So most of the time we rely on well-wishers, we rely on donors.
That's my challenge to you, Tete Gwen. That's my challenge. That's what I'm trying to challenge you to do, because, like I said, people are gonna whenever I show up in Zimbabwe, people will be waiting for me at the airport.
And they'll be like, "Where did you get all these things you talk about? Exactly. Have you been here in Zimbabwe?"
Exactly. But that's kind of what, because I know what you've been doing. Okay, what you're saying is true. With a disability comes some type of limitation. It's going to be different for every disability. But one of the things that you said was, you were talking to those mothers and parents, and you said you still got to be a parent. You still got to be able to say yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no. But your child should know you are the parent in this relationship. What I'm saying is, what if we take that same kind of way of thinking and we go to the government and we say, we have disabilities, and yes, our children have disabilities, but as parents of children who need these resources, we are going to fight. And I'm not saying the fighting is not happening. I'm sure it's happening, and I'm sure there's a lot of excuses why maybe you don't get the support that you need. But what the way I'm thinking about it is if the people who have the need could do something, and I know this is gonna come out all kinds of wrong, and maybe mobilize the other people around them for the help that they need. And show the government that you can get some things done, but the government still needs to give them, especially the financial aid part, where the government can write a check. Because if no one has a job, there's no one who's going to contribute, right? If you're a parent with disabilities, and you don't have a job, you cannot contribute money. Yeah. So you may be able to get your brother or your sister who doesn't have a disability to do something on your behalf, but they still don't have a job either. But if for whatever reason you could mobilize enough people, and then you go to the government and you say, I have 100 people who are willing to work building a ramp at this school or these schools, if you give us money for the supplies. I'm just wondering if a strategy like that might convince the government that, hey, we need to do something for these people, otherwise they're going to start making a lot of noise. Because if you're negotiating with the government and they keep telling you we don't have money, and that's 3 years going on, maybe we need to turn up the heat and maybe write that opinion piece in the magazine and say, we offered the government free labor if they would just give us $1,000 to buy some bricks. I think that would. And I don't know the politics, so if the government is listening, I don't know the politics why they wouldn't do that, because to me it just sounds like, come on,
with our government, it's not as simple as you're trying to make it sound, James. Like you're saying, people are gonna be waiting for you when you come back here. No, it's not as simple as that. This struggle has been going on for years and years and years. Before I ever joined in the struggle, persons with disabilities, the advocates, and all that. A number of avenues. People have tried a number of ways of engaging the government, and nothing seems to work. Like I said, there's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of government departments, a lot of protocols. They just tell you they will refer you back to a certain department, and we know that nothing good will ever come out of that department. So it's just a way of them dismissing. That's why we have small organizations trying to do what they can in their small way. Because if we wait for commitments, if we wait for the responsible offices to commit for the budget, it will never come in our favor. And we will keep on waiting until I don't know. So we're just trying to do what we can. If that's why you see sometimes when you guys send me sunscreen lotions, I give them, I keep them and give them to people in need. This is something we are doing in our small way. I've been always asking the government. I've been always on different platforms. Can we have, subsidized sunscreen lotions in the provincial hospitals, in all the clinics, be it in Murewa, be it down there in some remote parts of Zimbabwe, rural parts of Zimbabwe, where people with albinism should just be walking in and, even their name in the register, walking in and getting a bottle of sunscreen. If it's not going to be for free, but at least at a subsidized cost. I've been saying this, but it seems like it's falling on deaf ears. That's why you see when you send me maybe sunscreen lotions, I know this is our own small way of giving back to the community, helping our brothers and sisters with albinism, because we've been trying. This is my area of specialty. That's why I'm talking about special, sunscreen lotions. This is just an example, a simple example.
What would be a solution, like a permanent solution? What would it look like for the sunscreen solution, for the sunscreen part? What does a permanent solution look like?
It's being able to produce our own sunscreen lotion here in Zimbabwe. That would be something that's permanent, because if we import, it's quite expensive. A bottle goes for like $20, $25, and most of our people are not employed, are not financially gained. And that's another. So if we're able to make it here, it would be cheaper.
Has anyone tried making it in Zimbabwe?
People have, but there isn't much research on that. And the products that were being produced were not good enough. Some people were reacting, it wasn't there is no research on albinism and sunscreen lotions here in Zimbabwe.
When I was growing up, I don't know if anyone was making any kinds of lotions in Zimbabwe. I know we had Vaseline. That was something that every household had. As far as lotions, I know, growing up, some of you girls had lotions, but, as boys, we didn't use any lotions. You and I, when Amai would take us to the hospital, like after a serious sunburn, we would get the Paba cream. Remember the Paba cream? I don't even know what I don't even know what PABA stands for.
Even myself.
But I know we used to get the Paba cream and would put that all over ourselves, and that would help. But I don't know if that stuff was any of that stuff was being made by a company in Zimbabwe. Like, imagine if a company like I don't know if Colgate Palmolive would have made lotion, but I know they made soaps. Like, if a company like that was already in Zimbabwe, I don't know if they're still in Zimbabwe, not just a distributor, but someone who manufactures stuff. If they had the equipment, because I don't know what the difference between making lotion and making soap. I don't know if it's very different. But if a company already had the equipment in place, and they could donate part of their production line to making the lotions. If someone would, man, I keep coming up with these bad ideas. If someone would donate the resources. If someone, I'm looking for a partnership. I'm looking for someone to partner with. Like, you guys already have equipment.
I know you have.
If we can get someone to give us the ingredients, would you donate part of your production line to making the lotion? And people make lotions out of all kinds of stuff. There are people who make all kinds of soaps and lotions from, animal fat and stuff like that. I don't know if people make lotions from animal fat. I know you can make soap from animal fat. My thinking really, this is where I know, like I said, people will be waiting for me at the international airport in Zimbabwe. Like, give us, stop telling us ideas and give us the money. But I'm thinking, if there's a way to partner with someone who has the resources, and then someone provides the labor or the machinery. What about neighboring countries, South Africa, Botswana, Zambia? How are they faring in terms of the skin lotions and stuff?
So what I know is in Tanzania, they're making their own sunscreen lotion, which is research based on their people with albinism, which is being made specifically for their people with albinism in Tanzania. Also in Malawi, they're doing the same. I think in Zambia. And recently I was in touch with the people who are making those lotions for the three countries that I've mentioned. So I was also asking them if they can help us to do the same here in Zimbabwe. And their proposition was we can start with a pilot project where obviously they will sell it to us, but at a reasonable cost. So they were like, if we come up with a way of getting the sunscreen lotion to Zimbabwe, they were saying maybe we can get it from Malawi, since they're making from Malawi. And they were saying they want us to start with a pilot project where we can buy maybe a year's sunscreen lotions for a person, which will last that person for a year, like 6 bottles of sunscreen lotion.
Okay.
So we can say we want to buy about lotions for about 100 people.
Okay.
So that as the people are using the lotion, they will be giving us feedback. How is the lotion on their skin? How are they liking it? And how effective is it for them?
Okay.
So after that pilot project, then we're going to come up with a way of manufacturing it here in Zimbabwe. I was trying to say, this is what we as small organizations are doing. These are our only two efforts. Like I was saying, for people who are visually impaired, we've got organizations who are running around sourcing for white cans, sourcing for braille books, but we cannot cater for the whole of Zimbabwe. Yeah. That's when we would need assistance. That's where we would need assistance in, being considered in the national budget when it comes to, we're just calling on the government to consider, the issues of persons with, to give issues of persons with disability some level of priority.
So maybe as we wrap up this episode, and we've talked about just the broad subject of people with disabilities, do you find that working with this coalition of other organizations and individuals with albinism is a good strategy moving forward?
I think it is. I think it is because, we are engaging different stakeholders. We're engaging, we are being invited on various platforms to talk, be it with children with disabilities, be it the school headmasters, be it the parents. So I think it is a good platform where we're just trying to bring our issues into light, trying to bring some attention on the matters that are affecting children with disabilities within the education system.
I've enjoyed this chat so far. I think just being able to speak with knowing that we have all the time to revisit certain subjects in the future and expound on other things in the future is going to make this a very good series for us to do. I don't know how many episodes we're going to end up with. I'm thinking anywhere from 6 to 12, depending on how things shape up this year. I think we're going to be able to cover a lot of ground, and maybe we can bring other voices in and talk to them and get their point of view and get their input as well. But this is good. Thank you again for waking up early in Zimbabwe and making the time. It's been fun.
No, thank you so much for coming up with this. It was fun. I also had fun.
It's just the beginning. I may annoy you with some of my ideas because I
keep them coming.
I have many ideas that we're gonna get.
No, keep them coming.
Yeah. No, really.
That's all right.
My inspiration is not so much that I have ideas, but if we don't do the things that we need to do, like if we don't push the boundaries, if we don't push against the limits, people would think that we like where we are. Sometimes you have to make a little bit of a noise. Like
I'm not